Have you ever felt that feeling like time is suddenly speeding up? For decades, it felt like we had all the time in the world. But here's the thing, there's this critical decade from age 55 to 65 that basically acts as a launch pad for the rest of our lives. If you get this period right, you are setting yourself up for a peaceful, stable future. But if you get it wrong, well, you could be facing some totally unnecessary hardships. So today, we're going to dive into the 5 essential preparations that can help you navigate this pivotal time with grace and, most importantly, with intention. This really hits home, doesn't it? And look, this isn't about being pessimistic, not at all. It's about getting real. The feeling just shifts. It goes from one of infinite possibility to one of precious, finite time. This realization isn't meant to cause a panic. It's meant to spark focused, intentional action. Because the choices you make right now, they just carry so much more weight than ever before. To really get a handle on this decade, we can look to a core concept from the I Ching, this big shift from yang to yin. Think about it. Your younger years were all about that yang energy, expanding outward, right? Building a career, growing a family, just growth, growth, growth. But this decade is all about yin. It's a time for turning inward, consolidating your energy, and securing your foundation. So many people make the mistake of trying to keep that high-octane yang energy going, and they end up shaking their own foundations just when they need them to be the strongest. And this metaphor of a tree? It just illustrates the idea perfectly. For years, you focused on growing your branches, your career, your social network, all your accomplishments. And they look impressive. But now, the most important work is happening underground where no one can see it. It's time to nourish and strengthen your roots. Because a tree with deep roots can withstand any storm, right? But a tree with shallow roots, no matter how leafy and beautiful it looks, can be toppled by a single strong wind. So, let's get into it. Where do we start? With the most fundamental root of all, your physical health. Preparation number 1 is all about finding and, more importantly, respecting your body's new rhythm. Now, check out the contrast on this slide. In our youth, we could push our bodies to the absolute limit, recover overnight, and just get away with it. But now, the body is sending completely different signals. That fatigue that used to just vanish after a good night's sleep, it might linger for days. The source material actually tells the story about a man in his 50s who insisted on running with the same intensity as a young guy, and one day, he just collapsed. Thankfully, he wasn't seriously hurt, but it was a huge wake-up call. He switched to gentle, hour-long walks and found his health was actually better than before. He stopped fighting his body and started listening to it. And here's a really crucial insight, something that might surprise you. While diet and exercise are obviously still important, traditional Chinese medicine teaches that after 55, the single biggest factor affecting your health is your emotional state. All that anger, worry, sadness, these emotions don't just pass through you anymore. They leave a physical mark. They can mess with your blood pressure, your heart, your sleep. So the first step to taking care of your body is actually taking care of your mind. This whole idea of stability builds directly into our second preparation, securing your financial foundation. And look, this isn't about being greedy. It's about creating the stability you need for genuine peace of mind. The financial game completely changes in this decade. I mean, completely. The era of high-risk, high-growth investing is over. You're no longer in the accumulation phase. You are now squarely in the preservation phase. Your primary goal is no longer growth, but stability. And why is that? Because you simply cannot afford a major loss anymore. When you're young, you have time to recover. Now, projecting what you have is so much more important than chasing what you don't. So where should your money be going? Well, the advice here is to keep it simple and keep it secure. First, invest in your daily comfort and quality of life. Second, put money aside for your health. Don't ever skimp on what keeps you well. And third, you have to have a solid emergency fund for life's curveballs. Now notice what's not on this list: complicated, high-risk investments that promise you the world. At this stage, you simply can't afford to lose. Okay, so with our body and finances on a more stable path, let's turn to our social world. Preparation number 3 is all about simplifying your relationships. I'm just going to let you think about that for a second. Our whole lives, we're taught that a bigger network is better, right? More friends, more connections. But does that rule still apply now? Well, the wisdom of this stage of life suggests the exact opposite. This beautiful quote from the philosopher Zhuangzi just captures the essence of this shift perfectly. True, meaningful friendships don't require constant effort, endless events, or forced interactions. They're as simple and essential as water. Any relationship that feels like a heavy obligation, something you feel like you have to constantly work at to maintain, it probably isn't the kind you need to carry into your later years. This is what the source calls relationship pruning. It's not about being harsh and cutting people off. It's about reallocating your finite social energy. Focus on your family, your core. Let those surface-level friendships just fade away naturally, without any guilt. Stop trying to attend every single event just to please everyone. This isn't being cold. It's a wise act of self-preservation. It's about choosing quality over quantity every single time. And this leads us directly to the fourth and maybe the most vital preparation, the active cultivation of emotional peace. As we saw earlier, this is so deeply tied to our physical health. This concept, Ping Shang Xin, is central to finding that peace. It means having an ordinary heart. Now, that doesn't mean being emotionless. It means developing an inner center of gravity that's so strong that you aren't thrown off balance by life's highs and lows. Good news doesn't make you ecstatic, and bad news doesn't send you into despair. You just remain level. And this isn't a gift. It's a skill you have to build. And you know what destroys that inner balance faster than anything? Anger. This proverb powerfully illustrates its destructive force. Every time you get angry, you're not just hurting your relationships, you're physically harming yourself. At this age, learning not to get angry is one of the most profound acts of self-care you can practice. It's about realizing that most things are just not worth the cost to your inner peace. So how do we let go of that anger, especially from old hurts? Forgiveness. The source tells this story of a man who held a grudge for years against a friend who cheated him out of some money. And the anger was making him physically ill. High blood pressure, heart problems. On his sickbed, he finally realized, why am I sacrificing my own health for someone who doesn't deserve it? He let it go. And his health miraculously began to improve. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give to other people. It's a gift you give yourself. It's how you untie that knot inside you. And that brings us to our fifth and final preparation, proactively reclaiming your personal energy. You've spent a lifetime giving it away. Now it's time to take it back. For decades, your role was likely to provide, to help, to be available for everyone. But now you have to recognize that your energy is not an infinite well. Learning to say no without feeling guilty is an absolutely critical skill. It's about setting boundaries and protecting your most valuable assets, your time and your peace. You've fulfilled your obligations to the world. Your primary obligation now is to yourself. So, we've covered 5 key areas of preparation: body, money, relationships, emotions, energy. But if you look closely, you'll see they're not separate things. They're all branches growing from the same trunk, drawing from the same single root. So what is that root? It's your sin, a concept that translates as both your mind and your heart. All 5 of these preparations are, at their core, about cultivating a calm, stable, and peaceful heart. Think about it. When your heart is steady, your body finds its rhythm. When your heart is at peace, your finances feel secure. When your heart is content, your relationships simplify. A chaotic mind will create chaos in every single area of your life, but a calm mind will bring order to everything it touches. And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. These 10 years, they're not an ending. They are a profound beginning. It's the decade where you finally get to shift the focus. You've done your duty for your career, for your family, for society. Now it's time to turn all that care, that energy, and that wisdom inward. It's time to live, finally, for yourself. The only question left is, what are you going to do with that freedom?